Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from London. I'm Ollie Barrett, and coming up we've got the latest on stories from across the globe. First, the headlines. Terror strikes Afghanistan again, this time at a Shi'ite mosque in Kandahar. The attack took place as worshippers attended Friday prayers. At least 32 people have been killed and 15 injured. Turkey says it's ready to help the Taliban overcome Afghanistan's humanitarian crisis, but not to recognise its rule. It's hosted the country's new leaders for the first time. Joint Chinese-Russian naval exercises kick off in the Sea of Japan. The Russian Navy conducts drills using warships, anti-submarine vessels, minesweepers and a submarine. The PLA Navy brings out its destroyers as well as a diesel submarine. Lebanon observes a day of mourning following deadly clashes between armed militias that killed at least 6 people and caused panic and fear in the capital. Welcoming Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta, US President Joe Biden announces the donation of another 17 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines for Africa. And Britain's Queen Elizabeth appears to call world leaders irritating when they talk but don't act on climate action. The Queen was overheard at the opening of the 6th session of the Welsh Parliament in Cardiff. And we'll start with that developing news out of Afghanistan. And 60 days after the Taliban took power in the country, a blast has been reported at the Fatimiyya Mosque in the Imam Bargar area in District 1 of Kandahar, the Taliban's birthplace and control centre. At least 32 people have lost their lives and 50 have been injured. The blast at the mosque in the centre of the town occurred during Friday prayers, the busiest congregation of the week. This is the third terror attack in weeks that has targeted Friday prayers. On October the 8th, at least 100 people were killed and wounded in a mosque explosion in Kunduz in northern Afghanistan. The suicide bomb attack targeted the minority Shi'ite Muslim community. And for more on this, we can go live to Anas Malik, who's joining us with the latest from Kabul. Now, Anas, what can you tell us about the latest information from the ground?
Well, only at least 50 plus people have been killed, more than 70 are injured. What is now confirmed was a suicide bombing inside Kandahar's biggest Shiite mosque. There are conflicting reports with regards to the number of explosions that have taken place. Eyewitnesses have been telling me that at least 3 explosions is what they have heard. The Taliban are yet to confirm that. Local media is also reporting that at least 3 explosions have taken place. We are verifying those reports, but with regard regards to the number of casualties, at least 53 people are now confirmed dead, whereas more than 70 are injured. This explosion took place in Kandahar, that is in the southern part of the country. Kandahar is said to be the stronghold of the Afghan Taliban. As we speak, no group has claimed responsibility, but this seems to be a pattern that has been followed. Last Friday, we saw a similar explosion taking place in a Shi'ite mosque as well. That too was in a Shi'ite mosque where at least 60 plus people were killed. That was claimed by the IS. As you speak, any group is yet to formally claim responsibility of this act of terror, but it looks like, going by the pattern, it looks like the handiwork of the Islamic State. Oli?
And as you mentioned that pattern, what have the Taliban been saying about this pattern of attacks?
Well, the Taliban have been conducting operations after operations. We've seen them having conducted operations in the north side of the country, that was in Mazar Sharif. Just 2 days back, they had claimed that they have busted a major terror ring linked to the Islamic State. Before that, we saw operations in Kabul as well and elsewhere in the country. But with that, it seems that those efforts are either left aside, half-hearted, or they're not attaining or achieving what it is meant to be, because the IS continues to attack. Just yesterday, there was an attack in Kunar as well that targeted the Kunar's police chief, the Taliban police chief for Kunar, in which at least 3 people were killed, more than 13 were injured, which included civilians as well. So the Taliban, while on one hand they are saying that IS is not a bigger problem, that they have the wherewithal to contain them, but the IS through these attacks is conveying a very clear-cut message that USP that the Taliban took pride in, of security, that after their takeover of the country, they have made the country much more secure. That remains punctured, that has been greatly damaged, and now it remains to be seen how the Taliban would ensure that sense of normalcy of life or security within the residents. Oli?
Anas, thank you. That is WION's Anas Malik, who is live in Kabul for us. And this all comes as Turkey has hosted Afghanistan's new leaders in the capital, Ankara. Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu welcomed his acting counterpart Amir Khan Muttaqi. Muttaqi arrived in Turkey following talks with the US and European envoys in Doha earlier this week. During the Qatar talks, Muttaqi warned that Western sanctions on the Taliban threaten to further undermine security in the country. Turkey says it's ready to help the Taliban overcome Afghanistan's humanitarian crisis, but says it will not recognize the Taliban's rule.
Biz bugüne kadar uluslararası topluma şu andaki Taliban yönetimiyle angajmana girmenin önemini anlatıyorduk. Ve şu anda uluslararası toplum, taraflı tarafsız herkes zaten bu pozisyonda. Tanıma farklı, angajmana girmek farklı bir şey.
Turkey has been working with Qatar to reopen the airport in Kabul for international travel. Cavusoglu says the two sides discussed flights from Kabul's airport after the Taliban requested Ankara's help on the matter. Turkey has sought to use its position as the only Muslim-majority member of the NATO defence alliance to secure a greater role in Afghanistan after the US troop withdrawal. But its offer to provide security for Kabul's airport has been rejected by Taliban leaders. The airport is the main point of access for humanitarian aid. Cavusoglu says he reaffirmed to Muttaqi that ensuring security at the airport was vital before regular flights could resume.
Özellikle düzenli uçuşların başlayabilmesi için güvenlik konusundaki beklentilerimizi, yani sadece bizim değil, tüm uluslararası sivil havacılık camiasının beklentilerini bir kere daha kendilerine bugün anlattık.
The Turkish Foreign Minister also urged the Taliban to give girls open access to education and allow women to return to their jobs. to Lebanon now, and a day after parts of Beirut turned into what resembled a war zone, the army has deployed tanks and security personnel across the city. Fighting broke out after shooting began at a rally against the judge tasked to investigate the 2020 Beirut port blast. 6 people were killed and dozens wounded. Lebanese President Michel Aoun has pledged to punish those who were involved.
وراح أسهر على أنه يوصل التحقيق لحقيقة ما حصل ومحاسبة المسؤولين عنه والمحرضين عليه مثل أي تحقيق قضائي آخر، بما فيه التحقيق بجريمة المرفأ يلي كان ورح يبقى من أولويات عملي والتزامي تجاه اللبنانيين والمجتمع الدولي.
The protest was organised by Hezbollah supporters against Judge Tariq Bitar, who is currently investigating the explosion that ripped through Beirut's port last year. On Tuesday, the judge suspended the probe for the second time in the face of lawsuits filed by former ministers that he had summoned on suspicion of negligence. Human rights groups condemned this as an attempt by politicians to evade justice. There have been growing calls from top officials, including the Hezbollah chief, for the judge investigating the case to be replaced. The Lebanese army says it's arrested 9 people who are suspected to have been involved in the armed clashes. The unrest unfolded when snipers positioned on rooftops reportedly started firing at residential buildings. It's claimed in a bid to target Hezbollah and Amal supporters. Hezbollah supporters then retaliated with assault rifle fire and rocket-propelled grenades.
ونحن كنا عشوائي رحنا بالمكتب صار يتقوسوا علينا عن صايب نتف المكتب جوا ورصاص مرق من حدة شظينا ما عرفنا كيف هربنا بعد ساعتين 3 هلا جينا لقينا رزقنا كله
The gunfire lasted for 5 hours and sparked memories of the 1975 to 1990 civil war and marked the deadliest civil violence in Beirut since 2008.
هذا المشهد رجعنا لل 75 كان عمري 10 11 سنة. هذا هو ذاته تكرر عاد ابدا فيديو سوى بمخيلتي انا وصغير هلا عن عاد.
Lebanon's Prime Minister Najib Mikati called the violence a setback. He added that his cabinet was working to provide the International Monetary Fund with the necessary financial figures ahead of talks to pull the country out of its economic meltdown.
مما لا شك فيه انها نكسة حصل يعني لا يجوز المكابرة ولكن حتما رغبتنا ان نتجاوزها لانه الهدف بالنتيجة اللي حنوصلها بالتعاون مع الجميع وانا اكيد وعلى يقين ان كل اللبنانيين بدهم يوصلوا للنتيجة الايجابية اللي عم نحكي عنها.
The latest tensions come against the backdrop of a currency collapse, soaring poverty and an energy crisis that's led to extended electricity blackouts. New and tougher coronavirus restrictions have come into effect in Italy. The rules include a mandatory green pass for all workers to show proof of vaccination or recent recovery from COVID-19. Workers without passes could be suspended without pay. Some workers and unions have opposed the stricter rules.
Italy is bracing for nationwide protests, blockades and potential disruptions. The country is implementing what many say is one of the world's strictest coronavirus measures. Italy is making compulsory for all workers to either show proof of vaccination, a negative test or recent recovery from infection. Fears are growing in Italy over the new rules.
On 15th October, there will finally be a revolution in Italy. We won't go to work.
I've accelerated my retirement, so my last day of work will be 15th October and I'll spend it at home because they forced me to show this fascist pass.
From October 15th, all employees will need a so-called Green Pass certificate to go to work. Workers without one can be suspended without pay. They could also face fines, but cannot be sacked.
Pur facendo questo, obbliga I cittadini a vaccinarsi per ottenere.
The government is forcing its citizens to get vaccinated in order to obtain this passport, which allows them to work. I consider this to be criminal and a cowardly blackmail by our highest institution.
Some politicians, unions and businesses fear that this will cause shortages and disruptions, rather than boost inoculations and output, which the government hopes. Italy's government hoped that the move would convince unvaccinated citizens to change their minds. 80% of those over the age of 12 are already fully vaccinated, and infection rates have been low. But up to 3 million workers are estimated to be unvaccinated. Most of the unvaccinated workers will only be able to work if they pay for their own tests either every 48 or 72 hours. The new rule has triggered angry demonstrations and workers who have declined to get vaccinated. Many of them are from the freight industry. They've threatened to block the major port of Trieste if the rule is not rescinded. Trade unions have also planned an anti-fascist rally on Saturday. The Draghi government has defended the Green Pass as a way of avoiding further lockdowns in the country. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
US President Joe Biden has announced a major new COVID vaccine donation for Africa. He met with his Kenyan counterpart Uhuru Kenyatta at the White House. Calling Kenya a key country in the African Union, Biden expressed his commitment towards strengthening partnerships on security, climate change and the fight against coronavirus. He says the United States will donate more than 17 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine to the African Union.
We're continuing our shared fight against COVID. The United States has donated 2.8 million doses of vaccine to Kenya as part of a 50 million doses we've donated to the African Union. And I'm proud to announce that today that we're making an additional historic one-time donation of 17 more million doses of J&J vaccine to the AU. And we're going to be sending some more by the end of the year to Kenya.
This comes on top of the 50 million doses that were already donated by the US. Now, according to the White House, the 17 million Johnson & Johnson vaccines will be available for delivery within weeks. It comes a month after Kenyatta publicly pleaded at the United Nations General Assembly for more equitable vaccine distribution. At the White House, the Kenyan president thanked Joe Biden for assisting Kenya and other African countries, and he highlighted Kenya's commitment to fighting climate change.
The United States has been a very strong partner to Kenya in that particular fight, and this is an area, again, I am hoping to have an opportunity to further discuss with the President. We are also keenly and very grateful with his strong position, especially with regard to climate change. This is an area where Kenya has made tremendous progress in her own right.
The United States, though, has thrown away at least 15.1 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines since March the 1st. According to data released by the National Public Health Agency of the United States, 4 national pharmacy chains have reported more than 1 million wasted doses each. Meanwhile, most of sub-Saharan Africa has a vaccination rate in the single digits. A famous artwork by the British street artist Banksy that shredded itself right after it was sold at auction back in 2018 has found its way back to Sothebys, where it was auctioned off once again, this time at a whopping $25 million. And this time around, there wasn't any shredding involved.
This art piece here is called Love is in the Bin, the work of the pseudonymous English artist Banksy. That was sold at the Sotheby's for $25 million. Now, some of you may recall that this artwork didn't actually always look like this. Here's a quick recap. This famous painting was formerly known as The Girl with the Balloon. Originally stenciled on a wall in East London, that was then put up for auction in 2018. Here's where things get truly interesting. Right after the hammer came down at $1.4 million, the iconic artwork shredded itself. You heard that right. Banksy revealed that he had fitted the frame with a shredder. And what you see here are the remnants of that stunt.
The hammer came down and all of a sudden we heard this beeping noise. It wasn't a Sotheby's alarm, so we were like, what's going on? And everybody was sort of out of their seats, phones in the air, sort of hands over mouths, and I looked over, and I was standing on the phone banks at the time, looked over and the picture has sort of looked like it had fallen half out of the frame, and it wasn't until a bit later that we realised that it had actually shredded.
Much like his identity, why Banksy pulled this stunt is a mystery. There are various theories floating around though. According to Sotheby's, the work created in the process is the ultimate Banksy artwork. Well, clearly many people echo the same sentiment considering the price tag on this one. Known for his satirical and mischievous art, Banksy began his career spray painting buildings. He soon became one of the best known and followed artists in the world. His works have sold for millions at auctions, this one being the highest bid till now, until his next trick. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
French President Emmanuel Macron has played in a charity football match to raise money for a hospital foundation. Emmanuel Macron played alongside former Arsenal manager Arsène Wenger and just about managed to score a goal for his team. Thanks very much indeed for watching. I'm Ollie Barrett. Do stay tuned to WION. World is 1-0.
Many other. This is right, Arab.